It's a sometimes vlog. It's a vlog that happens sometimes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're doing some bonus coverage before I go to the airport. Today we're going to be visiting Lindon Johnson Presidential Library and Museum. Basically, a little fun fact. You know, Lindon Johnson was our 36th president from 1963 to 1969. But anyway, a lot of people, they kind of hate him for the Vietnam War, but he was actually a great president if you think about it. And he was born in Stonewall, Texas. They put his presidential library here in Austin and whatnot. And here's the footage of the library. But we're gonna go to that and see what type of bonus footage we could get for today. But anyways, I just wanted to give a little bit of background on President Johnson. So he was a congressman and then a senator, and then picked to be John F. Kennedy's running mate because he also ran for president during the Democratic primaries and stuff. And he was kind of like the Dixiecrat to basically seal, the South, because he was a Southern Democrat, and of course the Democrats were kind of flipping, in the South to Republican in the South. So he was kind of the thing that Kennedy wanted for his running mate. And of course, unfortunately, November 11th, 1963, Kennedy got assassinated in Dallas, and then President Johnson was sworn on the 707 Air Force One, and with that famous photograph and whatnot. But anyway, what happened was he was sworn in, and after Kennedy was assassinated on the 707, because obviously this was a state of emergency, it was very tragic. And then of course Johnson ran for president the next year and won with a landslide against Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater was a goofy communist weirdo who pretty much was anti-everything, and not what this country really needed. But he, Goldwater got the South, and then Johnson pretty much landslided the entire country, and with his great society speech when he won. And he was one of those impressive characters that he would stand over you and he would look down in your face and whatnot. And despite despite his bad decisions with Vietnam, escalating the Vietnam War, and having a bad, besides his bad decisions, listening to marinara sauce, besides this bad decisions, he did make some good things in 1965. 64-65, he signed the Civil Rights Bill, ending the Jim Crow laws permanently, and signed civil rights bills in 1965, and it pretty much changed the landscape. The Jim Crow is no more. It's not good to be a Jim Crow person. And then civil rights, and of course, war on poverty. This country was stricken with besides Vietnam, this was stricken with poverty, and of course you have the women's live and other garbage that was going on, bullshit that was going on in the 60s and stuff. So he was trying to fight poverty, help the the struggling people, because he's a Depression era Democrat, so he kind of helped people out. And basically, he signed bills to help fight poverty. He tried putting gun laws with all the violence going on, and during the 60s he signed that bill, and especially the Civil Rights Bill. So those were that made up for his Vietnam bullshit, for escalating that. But otherwise, he was a pretty good president. So we're going to attend the, and of course his wife was Claudia Lady Bird Johnson, who, and of course he had one of the first car boat type things that were pretty cool. But he was actually a pretty good guy, so I decided I had time before I fly back to California. That's why I'm not wearing my hat, just to be on the safe side. Just to see if we can get some footage of the Presidential Library, which is right here. It's coming up. So here we are, coming up to the Presidential Library, and yeah. So we'll see if we can get any footage and. Let's see what we can do here. Going under the college in Texas, and here's the Lindon Johnson Library and Museum. I'll see what I can get from this. And this was built in 1964 or 65 and whatnot. So here's his library. So we'll see what we can get and whatnot. The 36th president from 1963 taking over Kennedy for 1969, and of course the Vietnam War is the reason he didn't go for re-election. So there's a statue of Mr. Johnson, the President Johnson, over there in the distance. I'm trying to zoom in on that. That's the statue of him. President Johnson. Looks like a life-size statue of him. Yeah, that's about right.
Station at Ramstein when they had that big air show crash.
LBJ's limousine when he was the president.
I was there until 80.
The Italians.
Yeah, I think that was after I was there, but I remember reading about it.
So Lincoln.
I remember all that going down the Rhine River.
Internal engine in him that could not stop.
All of these opposites clang together inside of him.
One doesn't have to read a lot of political actions to know that he was driven by the desire to serve.
He was determined to achieve a good society, a great society.
He saw injustice, he saw hunger, he saw America, and he wanted to do something about it.
3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade today from Dallas, Texas. The flash, apparently official. President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
All I have, I would have given gladly not to be standing here today.
In the very early hours of his presidency, he laid it out, the entire Great Society, and he never diverged from it.
Will you join in the battle to build the Great Society?
Most of what he proposed, he'd been thinking about for many years, so it was all pent up. And when he became president, it just exploded.
The journey began with President Roosevelt's conviction that a compassionate government cannot ignore the plight of the ill-housed, of the ill-fed, or the ill-clothed.
Johnson saw that government can be a great force to help people who are confronting forces that are too big for them to fight themselves.
And he realizes that this is a chance now for him to, in a sense, complete the New Deal.
Our first objective is to free 30 million Americans from the prison of poverty. Can you help us free these Americans? And if you can, let me hear your voices.
Johnson wins the election in 1964 by a landslide.
Johnson had an enormous amount of political capital, and he didn't hoard it. He used it to get the Great Society in place.
Since he had so many bills and so many committees at the same time, what it required were these huge charts in his office. This was Johnson's domestic equivalent of the war room.
Johnson had the energy and the determination and the tenacity to work on them one by one until we got the numbers we needed, not just to pass the legislation, but to get the Great Society enacted by bipartisan legislation.
My first job after college was as a teacher in Cotulla, Texas, in a small Mexican-American school. My students were poor, and they often came to class without breakfast, hungry. And they knew, even in their youth, the pain of prejudice.
His heart went out to the Hispanics and the blacks who were in such a biased world. He wanted to give people a chance to succeed, to fulfill themselves, because that was the story of his life.
As a man whose roots go deeply into Southern soil, I know how agonizing racial feelings are. But really, it's all of us who must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice. And we shall overcome.
In my estimation, he made one of the most meaningful speeches than any American president and made in modern time.
There's no president since Abraham Lincoln that comes close to the achievements of LBJ on civil rights.
What he does changes the face of America forever. It is a social revolution that we'll never go back on.
He opened up the political process. He made real the essence of our democratic ideal.
All of Johnson was quite visible in his early years. The intensity, the drive, the native intelligence.
From the time he was young, he had this sense that if he could outwork everybody, he could get where he wanted to go.
He understood from the start that this was a city that was a magnet for ambitious people.
He had an incredible sense of the jugular of every member of Congress.
He could remember where every senator stood on different issues. What were their vulnerabilities? What were their strengths? What did they need in their district?
He had telephones everywhere he could possibly be, which meant that there was never a free hour when he wasn't calling some congressman, some businessman, some labor leader to get something done.
Work for him was just the most natural sort of thing. And the people around him were sort of driven to work 24/7 if he needed them to do it.
Part of the LBJ treatment was physical.
You knew when Lyndon started breathing in your mouth that you were finished.
But much more importantly was the mental part of the treatment.
We used to say people are moved by love and fear, and the trick is to put the right combination together.
He would frequently take his fingers and press into your chest, or in some cases even almost lift you up some by your lapel, where I find myself in most cases saying, yes sir, Mr. President, whatever I can do to make it happen.
Well, when Johnson came to the presidency, the United States was deeply enmeshed in a Cold War with the Soviet Union and China. There was a kind of feeling of a life and death struggle with communism, and it was global.
Since 1954, every American president has offered support to the people of South Vietnam, and I intend to keep that promise.
It was a worldview that was shared by most of the decision makers from the Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson era, that wherever there was a potential for a communist uprising, we had to be there.
Johnson knew that he was risking his great society, the lives of thousands of young Americans, and yet he went ahead because he felt that national security was at stake.
I remember him saying, if I could just sit across a table from Ho Chi Minh, we could work this out.
But it wasn't that easy on a world scale.
I don't think it's worth fighting for, and I don't think we can get out. And it's just the biggest damn mess.
It was a man absolutely tortured by the realization that he just simply didn't have the power or the vision available to him to find a way out of this thing.
In the end, it destroyed his body as well as his heart, knowing that so many of his achievements would now be shadowed by the war.
Well, it seems now more certain than ever that the bloody experience of Vietnam is to end in a stalemate.
And by then, it was really clear that continuing to bomb,
pacify areas. It wasn't working.
He said, well, I don't know, I may not run. And I said that you have to run. You're only one of the politicians who could get things achieved. He said, you got it exactly backwards. I'm the only one who can. I've asked too much of Congress. We're like an old man and woman. We've asked too much of each other.
I shall not seek the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Johnson thought that pulling out of the presidential race in 1968 would allow him to devote all of his time and energy to trying to get peace in Vietnam.
Lyndon Johnson was giving his political life, which for someone like Lyndon Johnson was really life itself, in an effort to advance the course of peace.
Every president lives not only with what is, but with what has been, and what could be.
We sometimes shy away from the exercise of power, and sometimes the way he used it might have been tough. But the overall end was to try and make life better for people.
I want to be the president who educated young children to the wonders of their world.
He understood that education was the path to a better life in America.
I want to be the president who helped the poor to find their own way.
When Johnson fought for education to reduce poverty, he was really carrying out his true calling.
I want to be the president who helped to end hatred among his fellow men.
He was an extraordinary man, full of human failings, but full of this incredible resolve to try to make America a better place than what he found.
Built by slave labor in the 1850s by Colonel and bought by my dad as a peasant in about 1945.
Lady Bird Johnson's section.
And here he is with his band. We called her the Cute Smith of the South. This is also on the courthouse square.
Something indicator or something.
So the people on the tours to be, tell everybody to be quiet as they got close, because she still lived in that house.
Yeah, because we couldn't get close.
Yeah, and there's sometimes that you couldn't, you just had to just drive through different roads as they walked up and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, the three of you are going to live well past 94, because the longest been here. Yeah.
Putting this interest into practice requires organization and hard work. Johnson wanted to make the adopted hometown an example for others to follow. Washington, D.C. would be a showcase for the nation. So, the Committee for a More Beautiful Capital was formed. Mrs. Johnson assembled her committee for the first time on February 11, 1965, at the White House. Members were public officials, businessmen, architects, philanthropists. Through projects for the many Americans, one to improve the nation's capital. Ideas and inspiration began to flow.
This is a Lady Bird Johnson exhibit. Money.
His connection to Labor's
This is a library. You know, it's mostly his memoirs and he's president, and so this is a library. So you have to be kind of quiet here too. This is a library, has all his memoirs and all his stuff as president, all his presidential documents, everything that he's done as president from, you know, he took over from Kennedy all the way in '68. Of course, he, you know, like going through all the books you see there, all his presidential records, all his stuff. That, you know, this is a library. People are free to see that. So, but yeah, Presidents and First Ladies up to Johnson. I'm starting with Washington, Martha Washington, Abigail Adams. You know, he loved his wife. That goes to the other side. These are the collections of what Johnson collected. Every president has a library. So people, you know, they might hate for what he did, you know, in Vietnam, but for the most part he helped people, civil rights, help, you know, war on hunger, gun control. It's too bad society has changed. And this goes, this mentions Donald Trump. This goes up to all the signatures of the presidents. The different presidents and their first ladies. Oh, I guess it does go all the way up to, no, it goes up to George Bush. That's okay. We don't need to see Obama and Trump and Biden. That's okay. That goes up to George Bush. Obviously, this backs up to the University of Texas. University of Texas backs up too. So, but anyways, yeah, this is a library at our best. Of FDR. But, so. Anything you want to read about Johnson, whatever you wrote or signed or whatever, it's all here. This is obviously the Dr. Seuss section for the kiddies. I don't know why I have a thing on Dr. Seuss. So yeah, these are all his records are in this library. a little pressed for time, so I'm kind of just, I will not be able to finish. I have limited.
Thank you.
Limited.
Oh, Henry, look. All right, we're at the elevator. You're going to get left.
I have limited footage and battery power, so I'm just going to go really, really quick. This is World War II. Or no, it's Vietnam stuff. I have limited footage in my marathon head, so I'm just going really quickly through what I can for the bonus footage. Stuff on Vietnam's.
We're heading. Good. And I'm just going to have them all sit down.
Pens he signed. Like that, I don't have time and run out of card footage, so I'm getting what I can out of this.
Okay, you're going to look at the docent. Sorry. Look at the docent. Have a seat. Have a seat. Hi, everybody. Are you having fun today? Yay! Thank you for coming. We're so excited to have you in the Lindon Johnson Museum. I have something to show you that is almost as old as the earth. It's older than the dinosaurs.
Dr. King was the correct guy, not Malcolm X. Dr. King was the correct guy.
Like a silver biscuit.
We must make the plan to be so.
That was the Parks.
Maybe it just sang like a heavy note.
I speak tonight for the dignity of man and the destiny of democracy.
I must have went backwards here on the museum, but that's okay. Number 12.
Friday, November 22nd. It all began so beautifully. After a drizzle in the morning, the sun came out bright and beautiful. We were going into Dallas. In the lead car, President and Mrs. Kennedy, John and Nellie, and then a Secret Service car, and then our car. The streets were lined with people, lots and lots of children, all smiling, people waving from windows. Suddenly, there was a sharp, loud shot. I can tell which way.
Office of the President of the United States. I will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
I did it backwards, but that's okay. I did it backwards, that's okay. That time travel backwards.
And the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and hollered.
Really? That's not going to stop you from the atomic bomb.
Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk it.
You want to go see the gifts? Yeah, we can see the gifts. Since we did, what was our play called?
Gifts and Texas.
Gifts and Texas.
Johnson was a guy I was worried he would just trying to use 6'3". That statue outside, maybe 6'3". Like I said, I'm kind of rushing. Oh yeah, the electric razor. Of course, this is electric toothbrush that Johnson used, stuff that he used.
Would you call my Secret Service agents and tell them that I'm leaving? I don't want to get in trouble. And I wanted to prove I could do it. Then I thought,
President of China.
The Johnsons opened the doors of the White House to the nation and to the world. On 136 occasions, they entertained visiting heads of state, from exclusive performances to
I think we can all fit in at one time. For any of you all, I'm telling you something right, you know, hit me up about it. You know, like I say, since I was there, I hope I remember it correctly. There's a backstory about this Oval Office. We were not going to have an Oval Office in this exhibit when they started building this building. So, because he was so impatient that he didn't want to have to get up from that rocking chair and, you know, and go over to the desk to answer the phone. So he had a phone everywhere. He thought he'd never need one. The other thing about this,
This is 60, so this will be it for this YouTube. Like I said, I'm kind of... Anyway, so this is Johnny 2B signing off.